Esteemable people do esteemable things. It's like, yeah, well, you want to figure out something that you're doing with your life that's worth not getting drunk and screwing up.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's fun.
Yeah, you want to have something on the other side of that teeter-totter that has some value.
You bet. You bet. And so that you can think, no, I'm not going to get drunk and screw that up.
Right.
Because, you might say, well, why do people drink too much? It's like, if you like alcohol, that's a stupid question.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why do people drink too much? Well, because it's great.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so why stop? Well, you do stupid things when you're drunk. You hurt yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard on the people around you. You tend to turn into a liar, and it screws up your life.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it's pretty fun. Yeah, well, it is. But you need something better than that. And what's better isn't being straight and not making mistakes. It's like that's all prohibition in some sense. What's better is, no, you need an adventure, man. You need to get out there and have something to do.
Yeah.
And something worth waking up for. And that's the substitute for the addiction. Actually, the addiction is the substitute for that, if truth be known. Maybe you need to, take an adventurous trip now and then. You got to have something there that's edgy to replace that. Sure, this must have happened when you decided to stop drinking. You must have thought, this isn't good.
I'm not going to be funny anymore. I thought that. I thought there was going to be ramifications. Yeah.
Okay, and so what were they? What did you foresee happening?
I thought I wouldn't be funny. I thought that people wouldn't like me. I thought that I wouldn't be able to meet girls if I wasn't drinking or having drugs or.
Right, so that was what you were afraid of giving up if you stopped drinking.
Right.
What were you afraid of happening if you kept drinking?
I was afraid of not achieving my dreams. I was afraid of, ending up a drug addict.
So you were afraid you're going to die, or you're afraid you're going to become addicted. So let's say what would have life been like you for you if you were addicted? So you don't have a career anymore.
No.
Right? So you've given all that up and failed. So that's fun. So that's going to drive you even more towards drugs.
Yeah, it would have been all my dreams. It would have been miserable.
Right.
It would have been hell.
Exactly. So why quit drinking? So I don't end up in hell. Hey, there's the reason to stop. And then if you make that hell real, it's like, here's all the details of my personal hell. Yes, let's avoid that.
Right.
So then you have something to run the hell away from.
Why is it hard for people to let go of what's so familiar to them, even if it's bad?
Well, because it's complicated. And the thing, that's a really good question. You discount the risk of familiarity that they're familiar with. So let's say...
Because people are in relationships with the drugs and alcohol. People are in relationships with humans. People are in relationships with jobs. People are in relationships with their own selves.
Alcohol is a very bad drug for violence. 50% of people who are murdered are drunk. And 50% of the people who murder them are drunk. And that's true for almost every violent crime. In fact, if you eliminated alcohol, you'd eliminate most interpersonal violence.
Look, I find that this is kind of an interesting topic because I think it's interesting that alcohol is legal. Mm-hmm. And yet, you do terrible things sometimes.
You probably couldn't have made any a worse drug legal.
Right.
From an epidemiological perspective.
On the other hand, you have marijuana or psilocybin or LSD even, or some of these other drugs, and they make you thirsty, make you laugh, and you wake up feeling fine. I find it really fascinating that alcohol is the illegal one. How did that ever happen or is the legal one? Why does our...
I think it probably happened because it was so easy to make and it was just everywhere. Right? Because all you really have to do is put barley in water and you get beer. Right? So it was really easy to make, and at least in many societies, it's been around for a very long time. And so it became legal just because, back in the Middle Ages, people drank alcohol, not water, because all the water was polluted.
Right.
Right. So that's the reason, but it certainly wasn't a consequence of evaluating the drugs by their comparative risk and rank ordering them and making, the least harmful legal. It wasn't that at all, because alcohol is unbelievably dangerous. I mean, about 10% of people become addicted to it one way or another.
Really?
Far more people than that abuse it. Yes, at least once in their life, yes. Yeah. It's really bad. I studied alcohol for years. It was my subject of my PhD.
Oh my goodness.
So the question is, why do people pursue rewards that don't produce this resonance? They don't have a value hierarchy. So Pleasure Island, it's a good example. Those kids that were brought there were lost. So they didn't have anywhere to go. They didn't have an identity.
So they default to local pleasure. And that's better than none. Although the problem with local pleasure, well, as the narrative made clear, is that you better look out if you're impulsive, because it's going to kick back on you hard. And the reason is, you're only considering the immediate time frame. And the problem is that things propagate across all the time frames. And so just because something works really well this second, cocaine, for example, doesn't mean that it's a tenable solution to the class of all problems. So usually, often, people pursue local pleasure because that's the best they can imagine. It's the best they've been taught. They don't see another alternative. So it can be ignorance. It can be they don't want to adopt the responsibility, because part of the problem with working at every level of the hierarchy simultaneously is that it's like dancing to a very complex waltz, let's say. You have to be paying attention to a very large number of things simultaneously and doing things right. It requires responsibility. And so, it's a pain. It's a weight. Part of the reason people drink alcohol is to get rid of their responsibility. I mean, that's what, you hear people drink because they have problems. It's like, no. Some people drink because they're anxious, and alcoholics drink because they're in withdrawal. But young people drink because they're sick and tired of being responsible, because it's annoying. It's like, so I'll drink enough, I won't care about the medium to long-term consequences, because alcohol, that's exactly what alcohol does. It doesn't make you ignorant of the medium to long-term consequences, but it makes you not care about them. And partly it's because it dampens anxiety. So it dampens anxiety, leaves your positive emotion circuits intact, so then you can go out there and do stupid, fun things. And that's a party, really. Let's go do stupid, fun things. That's a party. But the medium to long-term consequences it's risky. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it's risky. So, yeah, they don't know better. That's the answer, I would say.